Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from Abigail Hester. And Abigail Hester has this question. Do you believe the gods are supernatural entities or something else? And, well, gee, this is not the shallow end of the theological pool. And it's going to be difficult to go into the greater depths of this idea in our 5 to 10 minute vlog, but let's see what we can do. First, I want to say that I'm not personally fond of the term supernatural. I believe that everything is natural, including spiritual phenomena. They are not outside of nature, but are part of it, even though they're not necessarily easily observed by all people. Although this really is not directly germane to the answer to the question, it's something I thought I would comment upon because, in my mind, it's important for us to think of these things as being natural things, not outside of the scope of nature, if perhaps outside of the scope of most people's experience. Now, how do I see the gods? Well, in the degree lessons, we describe God and the gods in this way. Deity, universal deity, is a diamond, for want of a better way to describe it. That diamond has many facets. These are personal deity. And in the Correllian tradition, we make a strong distinction between universal deity, which is the diamond itself as well as the light that illuminates it, and personal deity, which are all those many facets. Universal deity is everything that exists and more. It is immanent in the world and transcendent beyond the world. It is everything that has been, will be, all that is. Personal deity is much more limited. The late Lady Bitterwind, who for many years was first elder of the Correllian tradition, had among her favorite sayings a piece which I believe comes from the author Piers Anthony, which is the idea that the only good reason for a priesthood is to prevent people from putting limitations on their concept of deity. But in fact, I would say that putting limitations on our concept of deity is all right as long as we realize we're doing it. When we talk about personal deity, we are limiting our concept of deity to something we can understand. And all those million faces of God that humankind has interacted with throughout its history are ways that people can understand the divine. They are a limited aspect of the divine, a particular deity, but they're also universal deity at the same time. They are a facet of deity through which all of deity can be accessed. And I would say the same about us and about everything in the created world. We're all aspects of deity through which the totality of deity can be accessed because it's within us. Because as above, so below, the creator is always within the created. And I would say that when we talk about personal deity, what we have done is, for want of a better way to put it, we have personified deity. And universal deity, I believe, is beyond our true comprehension. Our minds are not large enough to truly understand universal deity. And so we personify it in terms that we can understand as the many deities. And these can be very individual and independent, just as we ourselves are, but are still aspects of universal deity, just as we ourselves are, and everything which exists is. That is my point of view. And when we interact with personal deity, which can be anything from the polarities of the universe, yin and yang, goddess and god, spirit and matter, etc., all the way down to very small personal deities. There's a famous description of all the deities involved in creating a door in the Roman era. There's the god of the door itself, the god of the door case, the god of the hinge, etc., the gods of the nails that are put in. And this, in my mind, is one aspect of personal deity. It can be very individual personifications of existence which you interact with. Or it can be very large personifications of existence. But no personal deity ever completely captures universal deity. We simply cannot. So I believe that the personal deities are very important. In interacting with them, they can be very much like people, but they're not people, they're deities. And, one of my things I often say is that I cannot accept the idea that something is a deity if it is less than myself. I would expect the deity to at least be spiritually as great as myself or greater. And I think that sometimes people imagine their deity is very, very small, smaller than themselves, and maybe they need this for some reason. But deity can never be smaller than you are. So when we interact with our personal deities, which can have any of the many faces that humankind has assigned to deity over the millennia, or brand new ones as well. One of my favorite deities is Caffeina, the goddess of caffeinated foods and beverages. Also Asphalta, the goddess of the roadways, with whom I have had at times a very strong relationship and gotten very good results from that relationship. Even though these are very new deities in these forms, when we interact with these personal deities, we are interacting in very personal ways, very limited ways, and that's very important. But we're also, through them, interacting with all that is, with universal deity. And this is an important thing to understand, and this is also true when we interact with each other and when we interact with the world. It's all a lens through which we can interact with universal deity, and universal deity can experience incarnation. And therefore, I think I would have to say that ultimately there is only one spirit in all things, and that is deity. And when we talk about individual deities, as well as all sorts of individual creation, what we're doing is we're having a limited look at that unlimited universal. And that limited look allows us to do many things that we could not really do with the universal, because from where we are, we cannot fully understand it, even though we are part of it. So I don't know if that makes it as clear as it might be, but I think for a 5 to 10 minute vlog, it's not too bad. And that would be my answer. I hope you find it helpful, and until next time, may you blessed be.
Personal deity. A personal deity is any one of the many faces we ascribe to universal deity, to make deity easier to understand. Whereas universal deity is all-encompassing and abstract, personal deities are individual aspects of deity, portrayed in very human terms. Personal deities are there to help us understand deity and make a personal, emotional connection to deity.